the discussion around commerce and conversion, I think, on the panel led to, yeah, but how do you discover stuff, right? And I think one of the things that we realize clearly in our business is that digital technologies are very good at capturing intent and converting it into a purchase, but as catalogs and FSIs and things like that, where we, window shopping. Who window shops? Who goes to the mall and window shops anymore, right? Like some of these behaviors where we would discover the things that we ultimately want have started to dwindle. So, very nice segue into this next panel. Oh, who planned that? Is about visual discovery, and I'd like to welcome Jordan Jacobson, who heads our paid social team, Aaron from Belk, and our colleague from Pinterest to talk about a specific case study.
Night is dark and day is light. I keep you on my mind both day and night. And happiness
Thanks for the intro music. That was great. By request. So first, hopefully you guys aren't too burnt out on Pinterest and back to back, and we can actually provide some tangible examples of the work that we're doing. Some of the best work, I'd say, that we're doing with Pinterest on the Belk account. So first, thanks, Alan, for making it from Atlanta. It's great to have you here. Been working really closely with Alan over the last 2 years on the Belk account. And Erin, who you might recognize from last year, if you guys are joining us. She was on one of the more popular panels last year about beacon technology. So it's really great to have her back. Actually, when she left the stage last year, and I was congratulating her and telling her such a good job, I also was like, you're going to be back here next year to talk about Pinterest and the work that we're doing right now. So luckily we have good results that we can show for that, and it wasn't too much of a guess, but really thank you again for coming back. So we have a short period of time to talk about 2 years worth of work with Belk and Pinterest. So hopefully we can get through it all and have some great follow-up discussion on it. But before we get too far along, for those that are just joining us this year and might not be familiar with the Belk brand, Erin, can you give us a quick high-level overview of who Belk is?
Sure. We are a regional department store, southeastern U.S., 16 states. We sell national brands as well as our own private labels. We have a growing e-commerce business, and we were founded in 1898.
Great. So, Pinterest might not have a 129-year history, but it actually might be more of a household name to those in the audience today. Alan, I know that you have a few quick slides to provide just kind of an overview of what really inspired our work with Belk and why Pinterest was so important to the brand.
Yeah, so I'll start with just kind of talking about how we're differentiated as a platform. And I think it's always helpful to start by talking about what we're really not. And I think the thing to key in on is that we're not really a personal communication tool, right? People are not on Pinterest to upload and share photos with friends. They're not here for messaging with their friends. They're not here looking for real-time news updates, right? It really is a catalog of ideas, as Brian said, right? To plan your personal future. And that planning aspect is critical, right? That's really what makes our platform tick and where the value is. Because when you come to Pinterest in that planning mindset, you're looking for new ideas. You're open to new ideas. You're open to new brands, open to new products, open to new experiences. And the value that that can bring for a brand is a couple of fold. One is just the intent signals of it, right? So when somebody comes looking for something, in this case, right, a summer wardrobe, the value of the data that we have about people that are looking for that and the opportunity for a brand to intersect when somebody's looking for that is huge. And the last panel talked a lot about incrementality, and we're seeing this. We see it with Belk, and we'll get into the example, but it's a really big part of what we do is when you're in that planning mindset and you're looking for new experiences and new ideas, you really are open to trying new products you've never bought before. So that's really how we're differentiated and different. Just one quick slide to sort of validate this. This is from Mary Meeker's last year's Internet Trends report, and you can see clearly, right? This is our reason to believe, right? This is people come to Pinterest to find and to shop for products. And while, as Brian mentioned, we have over 150 million active users, Belk doesn't care about everybody in the market. They care about who's in market, right? So across all these categories, from women's fashion to beauty to home decor to activewear to men's fashion, we have meaningful scale and meaningful reach against these use cases for Belk.
Yeah, I think if you look at the content that's available in these stats, it's easy to see Belk's interest in Pinterest. And they were on Pinterest from an organic standpoint, creating content. But Aaron, can you give a little bit of background of why you were so eager to approach Pinterest early on from a paid perspective, which, in all honesty, 2 years ago was pretty bare bones. We're at a point now that we're really seeing their ad products take off, but in a lot of ways you were a guinea pig for a lot of the ad products, not all of the ad products that Pinterest has come out with in the last couple of years. So from Belk's perspective, why the eagerness to be a first mover on the platform?
Sure. Well, other than it being a great customer fit with the overlap in categories and our customers' interests, we had two really developed programs. Our paid search program and our paid social program were really mature. Thanks, iCrossing. So we were really looking for incrementality. What can we do to take it up to the next level to continue to drive sales we wouldn't have gotten otherwise? So Pinterest, being very untested at the time, we saw a lot of opportunity, and it's not often in the space that we get a chance to kind of get a leg up on our competition. It was an underdeveloped space, and we were more than happy to test and start learning how to work it into our marketing mix before everyone else figured it out.
Yeah, I completely agree. My kind of dual life that I've had at iCrossing, originally on the search team, moving to the social and heading up, a lot of platforms fall under me under paid social. Pinterest is one that I probably talk about the most, even though it might not be the biggest player out there. Is because it really is that intersection of search and social. You can see it, and you can definitely see the way it's adapting to even blur those lines even further. And I was lucky enough to be involved with the Belk program from the get-go, so I can kind of attest to a lot of the work that went into this and the thought process, and really critical thinking that went into making this successful. So, Alan, from the interest of time, we got a little bit of time that we can go over what 2 years worth of work was. But just for the audiences out here, when what mindset should you be in, and how should you really approach Pinterest to make sure that you have success?
Yeah, totally. So first of all, I think the work that we've done together has been amazing, right? The work that we're doing with iCrossing with Belk directly, and I think like any relationship with the platform, it's working across all those people and all pulling towards the same objective, which is to drive sales. I'll just quickly go through the process, right? And this is not anything unusual. You see this on a lot of platforms. I'll start with the insights piece, though, because this is actually really important, right? And a platform with 150 million people that are planning their personal lives, that creates a lot of insights that we can leverage to identify product trends and related interests, seasonality, creative trends, things that really can inform the other three things that you see here, right? Developing content to speak to those trends, to speak to that seasonality, to activate in such a way when someone is looking for summer wardrobe or new boots or a summer skirt, right? That we can activate specifically against that intent. And then I think we'll talk in a second about the measurement side. I mean, I think all of us, right, iCrossing and Belk and certainly Pinterest, we have to be able to validate that the work that we're doing and the money that's being invested in these platforms is actually driving business results.
Yeah, I would say the measurement piece in particular, you're talking about a discovery platform where people are planning, their wedding and they might not even have a boyfriend yet. You're talking about people planning their prom when they're a sophomore in high school. So the measurement piece was key when we approach this. And we know to further encourage investment in the platform, we're going to have to tie it to a tangible metric. So
Absolutely.
Can you just give an overview of
yeah,
how
so
to
in
think
this
about measurement
in this
on the platform?
specific way, I think and you can see it here, right? I think what we wanted to do is to measure the incremental ROAS from the campaign and the work that we were doing. Obviously, wanted to track that and see what online sales were happening. So leveraging obviously our pixel and Kinshu's pixel, but also like the vast majority of sales for Belk happen in store. So I wanted to take a first cut at a model directly with Belk to take their sales data and match it via DMA test control scenario to start getting some reads on the sales that we're driving in store as well. And just kind of quick headlines. So you can see, like, this is basically the campaign. A couple things to call out. One, on the creative side, you can see that it's very product forward. You can see it's very brand forward. You can see that it's very specific, and these pins are being delivered when somebody's looking for sandals, when somebody's looking for a bracelet, when somebody's looking for a summer dress. And that in that relevance and that context for how the user is approaching it, as you can see at the top, right? We noticed a 3x ROAS on online sales, and most importantly, the offline component, which is where the vast majority of activity is happening, a 31x increase in ROAS. So early signals that this is working really well.
Yeah, it's kind of a ridiculous number, but I can at least vouch for it, that it's real, and the amount of process that went into actually determining to measure this. Belk still, the majority of the sales are in store. So even proving any significant return on investment digitally is incredible, but then actually have that in-store element just really start showing where the opportunity is in this. So, Aaron, you got to be excited about seeing
little
such
bit.
good results after all the effort that we had. If you had advice to the audience that you could give, to brands that might be approaching Pinterest now that the platform's a little bit more developed, the ad products are there, what word of advice can you really give to marketers when they think about planning for Pinterest?
I guess the biggest one is don't rush it. It's going to be new for everyone in your organization. Pinterest isn't a last click measure. It, again, for us, had a lot larger in-store results. So that was a new conversation to have internally. So I think if you are just doggedly clear from the beginning what your KPI was, and everyone from the creative helping create the pins to the executioners to the partners that all have that in mind with everything they do, you'll have a better result. So I'm very pleased with that. But again, it's an education, it's a mind shift on how we're going to measure something differently, because again, it's not social, it's not search, it's this gray area in between. How do you talk to that? How do you insert that into your marketing mix in a meaningful way? So clear goals and don't rush success, and just learn as you go a little bit.
Yeah, I added on that just the need for collaboration here, the creative elements, the social elements.
Yes.
Integrating a product feed, the amount of people that sat in a room to figure this out was pretty incredible. Like now that it's, I'd like to say, more of a well-oiled machine, that we know what we're doing now, that we can go to market in a more strategic, process-oriented way. To begin just getting the right partners in the room to really make it work, which was something great to.
It's a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, a lot of phone calls, a lot of in-person meetings. Alan was great to bring the team down before any dollars were ever committed, to really just talk about the platform and make everyone realize what the potential there was. So with that said, what are you excited about next? Like, we live in this industry where we don't really get to relish in our success too much, whereas we're always thinking about the next thing. So when it comes to Pinterest, where do you think the opportunity is from here?
Well, I'm going to continue to bask in this for a little bit. But I'm extremely excited about shopping ads on Pinterest. I think every call we've had for the last few months, when are we launching shopping ads? I am beyond excited about the opportunity, not only from its success in other shopping programs, but to Jordan's point, the creative, the feed-based program to kind of get things to market a little bit quicker is very exciting for us. So we're really excited about that.
And get to use success from other channels, like what we've done from a feed perspective and local inventory, being able to pull that in when you have such a diverse marketplace from what the shopping experience is in Tallahassee versus Charleston versus Charlotte is definitely unique. So that'd be great. So we've heard Aaron's thoughts on what's next. We heard a little bit from Brian in the previous session about what Pinterest is doing right now. Alan, what's the roadmap look like for 2017?
Yeah, I mean, to build on everything that Aaron said, right? I think going across the same sort of framework of how we plan a campaign, a couple of new interesting things we're working on directly with iCrossing and Belk. I think first, starting with insight. So we invested a lot of time and energy last year as a company for audiences, right? Being able to bring a first-party audience onto Pinterest to activate against that. I think the next iteration of that is to take that same first-party audience and to match it and to drive real deep insights on that, right? So if Belk can say, in the past 6 months, these are people that bought in the women's fashion category, being able to take that same exact audience and really fill out that picture. What else are they doing on Pinterest? What are some other categories that Belk could activate against that they may not have known before? And Aaron mentioned this on the content side. I think one thing that's critical on our platform is being able to deliver creative that speaks to a specific objective, right? If you want to drive upper funnel awareness on Pinterest or consideration of a category, that approach is really different than something, in some examples we saw previously, a very lower funnel action. So that content side is huge. On the activation point, Aaron mentioned this too. Several weeks ago, announced a partnership with Kinshu to begin scaling our search and our shopping. All that functionality exists today. I think what Kinshu brings to the table and what iCrossing and Belk bring to the table is really being able to automate that, to bring, it's basically operational stuff. These aren't the sexy products that, get the oohs and ahs with demos, but they're the things that if you're an SEM buyer are just table stakes to be able to scale activity on a platform and to take some of the heavy lifting out of it and actually begin to scale business results. And then finally on the measurement piece, so I think, we get some really great reads on the first stuff that we did, and we actually validate that to third-party work that we've done with other retailers, so very much in line with what we've seen in the category in general. But I think we definitely want to get to a world of measuring true multi-touch attribution. What's the impact of Pinterest as a first touch, as a last touch platform? How does it impact search behavior, right? And then just ongoing ROAS analysis. I think this is step one of a multi-step process. So again, we're appreciative and thankful of the relationship that we've had with iCrossing and Belk, and look forward to continuing that in 2017.
That's great. When I think of Pinterest, you immediately go to recipes and fashion.
Yep.
We have marketers here from all different verticals. Where do you see the most interesting brands that are really approaching Pinterest that you might not, expect to really be having success beyond, obviously the great work that you're doing with iCrossing?
Yeah, I mean, I think our roots are definitely CPG and retail. I think the beauty of Pinterest, and Brian mentioned this in the earlier panel, right? Our mission as a company is to allowing people to discover and do the things they love. And that's different, right? I mean, for all three of us sitting here, I use Pinterest every day. I guarantee you I use it very differently than how Aaron would use it, right? So I think from the business side, there's no doubt that retail and CPG are our heartbeat, but we're emerging in a big way in the tech telco space, entertainment space. Auto is an emerging area for us. And financial services is another one that's a big category for us right now. All these things that people are planning for, this catalog of ideas, you have to be able to pay for that. So it's an exciting time for us, and it's the most fun to be in a business when you're building it and doing that directly with partners.
Great. So I see Mike looming.
The hover approaches. That's great, you guys. Should we take some questions? Any questions for this team, for Aaron, Pinterest? Visual discovery. Yes, Nick.
I'd just be interested, given that it's like the first time you guys have worked together on a project like this, how did you plan out the return on investment at the beginning of the project?
With a lot of good advice from our partners at iCrossing. No, we knew we were going into it as a test, so we weren't shifting large focus and budget from other tactics, but we did prioritize. So, it was a priority of the company to test into Pinterest, so we were able to scale back on some things that had already kind of plateaued over. So, again, we went into it the test, it was successful, and now we've developed it into its own channel, so it's ongoing. But the initial sell was interesting.
I'd say the big investment, though, was not necessarily monetary investment, but time investment and resource
absolutely.
investment. That's where the prioritization and really the focus was, while we were able to determine budget and everything based off of what will get us the results that we need to learn what we need to move to the next phase. It was definitely a phased approach. It was campaign by campaign to the point now where it's approaching the point of being an always-on, maybe even independent channel between what we're doing in paid social, paid search, and it's its own line item on the budget sheet, which is great to hear. That would be the one thing I would say is just really the investment might not be just the shift of
No, I think what Jordan's politely saying is I don't think we understood going into an alpha beta test how many dang on hours are going to be spent talking about one little pin. So getting the content right, partnering with Pinterest on best practices, because again, this isn't a channel our creative team has used to developing content for, and then you guys figuring out how to make it work with Kinchu.
You looked at the pins that we showed before. You didn't even see like the branding element that was added to it, which was heavily tested and had to be something that we integrated into the product feed to make sure that the branding was there.
Which involved IT.
Which is then IT, a tech project. So there was a lot of things that were, but we had to learn. But they were things that we had to get right to make sure it was successful.
And the only thing I would add to that is I would think leverage the iCrossing team. I think audience sizing is a big part of this. I think a lot of businesses, when they come to a platform like Pinterest, if you don't have experience with it, you just don't know what you don't know, right? So in the Belk case, to be able to say, to actually quantify, the number of people that are looking for summer sandals, right? When is that happening? Who is doing it? Where are the geographies where that's taking place? All those are things that certainly we would love to help with and can do that direct with partners and most importantly through iCrossing as well.
Evan, I've got a question for you. You talk about the fact that the Belk brand is over 100 years old. So I would imagine one of the biggest challenges you've got is to continue to attract the younger demographic of to the brand and becoming loyal. Are you also measuring the qualitative dimensions of that beyond the tangible metrics in terms of ROI that we're talking about, that there's that sentiment about attracting these new younger buyers to the brand?
So absolutely, acquisition and of new customers is something we're focusing a lot on right now. We see Pinterest as a key player in that. One thing we found through some brand insight study that we did at Belk was our customers are already using Pinterest, but in a different way than we thought they were. They're coming into our store with a board or a list from Pinterest of what they're looking for in advance, and they're literally shopping off their Pinterest board. So how do we get in that consideration stage before they're ready to purchase? I mean, to Jordan's point, planning a wedding before you're even dating anybody, like how do you insert our brand? And we value a new customer differently than we do a returning customer. So finding that mix, we see Pinterest being both top of the funnel and, like we've tested more recently, bottom of the funnel, a healthy mix between the both of them.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you. Jordan.
Thank you.